Hello everyone and welcome to a Rainbow Six lore video where in this video we are going to be explaining the Rainbow Six extraction timeline. And to do this we first have to start at the Rainbow Six Siege timeline. Because if you don't know, Rainbow Six Extraction is actually a branch timeline from the main Siege timeline. There's a completely different narrative team for both games. Them both being in separate timelines makes a lot of sense as well because that means both narrative teams can do whatever they want without having to affect the other one's story and their vision. And neither story actually benefits from being in the same timeline anyway. So I'm going to do my best to explain where the timeline starts, where it begins to branch off, and the differences they include. And this is going to all start from one timeline, and we're going to call this the Siege timeline, and then we'll explain later when it begins to branch off. So starting off in 2015, Team Rainbow is reactivated as a squad, bringing in elite operators from around the world to deal with an extremist group known as the White Masks. As time goes on, in February of 2016, Operation Black Ice occurs, introducing the operators Buck and Frost. A few months later, we have Operation Dustline, introducing us to the Navy SEAL operators Blackbeard and Valkyrie. Moving on to August of 2016, you have Operation Skull Rain with Chimera and Capitao joining Team Rainbow. And finishing off 2016 in November, you have Operation Red Crow, introducing two Japanese operators Echo and Habana. Year 1 of operations in Team Rainbow come to a close, meaning that we are starting a brand new year in 2017, with Operation Velvet Shell in February bringing us Mira and Jackal. There's a break in operations until August where we had Operation Blood Orchid bringing us Legion and Ying, and the Polish operator Ella. In November of 2017 we had Operation White Noise bringing us Dokkaebi and Vigil, and the sister of Ella, Zofia. And now is when stuff gets a bit complicated. In March of 2018 we have Operation Chimera. An operator known as Finka was actually invited by Six to help form their brand new CBRN threat unit. Finka actually seen an operator known as Lion's work in the field as impressive and asked Rainbow to invite him as well. After this, the two will oversee the brand new CBRN threat unit of Team Rainbow. And now, at this time, there is a split in the timeline between the Siege timeline, which we've been looking at, and now a brand new Extraction timeline. So right now in the Siege timeline, there is no major outbreak, there is no parasite, there is nothing. Lion and Finka are now here to oversee biohazard for the foreseeable future, and nothing more happens then. However, in a branch timeline now known as the Extraction timeline, an unidentified Russian capsule crashes into a city in New Mexico known as Truth or Consequences. A local man named Boyd Brooks sees this crash and goes to investigate. Boyd takes his capsule and takes it back to his salvage yard. There he is met by what is inside, which actually infects him with the Chimera parasite. Feeling unwell from this, he of course goes to his local hospital. But by then it's too late, the parasite takes over his body and he starts attacking other people. Boyd Brooks is now known as Patient Zero and the parasite begins to spread. A doctor at the hospital known as Dr. Ellen McIntosh saw this occur and managed to survive the following chaos. She managed to get hold of Boyd's body, aka Patient Zero. Over the next 7 days she managed to take blood samples from Boyd's body and began working on a possible cure. Before she could finish making this cure, she was swarmed by infected. This is where Team Rainbow was sent in to save and extract her. Rainbow not only extracted her and saved her, they also retrieved her research and Boyd's blood sample. It doesn't seem like she managed to develop a cure, but the hospital where this happened was contained and the threat seemed to be over. And that is the end of Operation Chimera in the Extraction timeline. The Siege timeline definitely had a quieter season. So this is where we're going to stop focusing on the Siege timeline because the Siege timeline goes all the way to where we are now in Operation Solar Raid, and that is not going to be the focus on this video. And now, that is when this parasite has become a threat to humanity, and Team Rainbow have shifted its efforts into focusing if this parasite is going to return and what they're going to do. That is when a new division of Team Rainbow, known as the Rainbow Exogenous Analysis and Containment Team, aka REACT, was founded. This meant that any operator joining from this time forward were going to be focusing on this parasite. We are not 100% sure if all the operators that join in Siege lore are actually the ones that still join in this universe now. We do know that after this initial outbreak event, the operators such as Nomad and Gridlock and Ayana actually join the team, but we're not 100% sure if it goes the same way as it does in the main Siege timeline where we still progress through seasons every 3 months and new operations, or we are now excluding certain operators and only focusing on the ones who help with the parasite. That is yet to be fully seen as they are obviously still updating the game and add more operators, and of course not every original operator is in React squad, so it could be seen that all the operators still join like the normal timeline, but they only include certain ones in the React squad. And the members of the React squad are as follows. The head of missions was Operator Ash and the director of tactics and planning was Thermite. The head of R&D was Mira, just like she is in Team Rainbow, and it also includes Dokubi and Ayana. And it also once again seems that Harry is involved in this team. And as it currently stands, the operators are Alibi, Capitao, Doc, Echo, Ella, Finca, Fuse, Gridlock, Jaeger, Hibana, IQ, Lion, Nomad, Pulse, Rook, Sledge, Smoke, Tachanka, Vigil, and Zofia. And of course, there's definitely going to be more operators added in the future. And this is now the main division of Team Rainbow, which is focusing on this parasite outbreak. And like I said earlier, every recruitment to the team now is now focused on this. But granted, this is kind of the same as counterterrorism, just in a very grand scale. And we do know actually from Rainbow Six Extraction that since the birth of the universe, and in the Earth itself, and in the moon, and all these other planets, there are these parasites that were spread throughout the universe when the Big Bang happened. And all these parasites are just infested around the universe. In the 1950s, a group known as the Orpheus Astroscience Labs managed to get their hand on some of this parasite, which seemingly fell from a meteorite. They kept this for themselves and just kept it for their own studies. Little do they know that there's actually pieces of this parasite dormant in the Earth ever since the Earth was conceived. And so, going back to Truth or Consequences, after that was contained, the dead, infected, dormant body of Boyd laid in this containment area not to be touched by anyone. And during this time, the parasite was actually developing its own ecosystem to communicate with the other parasites already on the Earth. And it was actually creating these Archaeans to deal with the humans on the Earth, which they seem as a threat. Because you may remember, in the Outbreak event, the enemies are actually humans that are infected, whereas in Rainbow Six Extraction, they are completely new humanoid alien-like things, which actually don't have any human host behind them. And so, after a few years, like I said, we don't know exactly when this starts, this parasite breaks its containment as it tries to reunite with its ancestral strains which have been on the Earth since its conception. This is where outbreaks started to occur across the United States, happening in New York, in San Francisco, in Alaska, where the Orpheus Research Center was when they were experimenting on it in the 1950s, and of course there was once again a major outbreak in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, where we actually see the re-emergence of Boyd's body actually in the game itself, the strains of this parasite where it re-emerged whilst it was laying dormant for years, waiting to take its chance to strike on humanity. And as the game is obviously a live service game just like Siege is, the story is still developing. What we know as the story is going on is that the parasite is evolving and there's finding new ways at how to counter it as well. Mira and the rest of the R&D unit keep developing brand new tech to counter this parasite, but of course we're not even a full year after the game's launch and we are going to be getting some insane content coming soon. So hopefully we're going to learn about more outbreaks around the world, more operators joining, more R&D tech to counter this parasite, and new variations of the parasite coming. There's a lot more lore which we are going to get into in the future when more does come, and we're going to explain all of it here on this channel, so be sure to subscribe if that does sound interesting. And so yeah, that is a little beginner's guide into Rainbow Six Extraction's lore, where it differs from the Siege lore and how it is in a separate timeline. I'm going to quickly note as well, the containment event which happened in Rainbow Six Siege isn't part of this timeline, although it did have React in it and it was Extraction themed. It has been confirmed by Ubisoft that that was purely just an event themed around Extraction. It doesn't take place in the Extraction timeline or the Siege timeline, it's just an event with no meaning behind it. So guys, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have an incredible rest of your day, subscribe if you did enjoy, drop a like on the video. I'll catch you all later. I love you all. Peace.